Thank you for subscribing to the channel. It means a great deal, and for those who haven't subscribed yet, like the videos, subscribe to the channel, share the videos with your friends. All goes a long way with me. Thank you. Now, what I want to talk to you about today, this is part 2 of creating margins, gutter margins, and setting up your page or your manuscript in Canva using the grid lines and ruler guides. Right, okay, we finished off part 1. Here, what we had is we had these margins set up, or these ruler guides set up, and we had a space here. We had the chapter page here. This is Whispers in the Void, this particular chapter in one of my short stories. I mean, I've created 3 books over the winter, all short stories, and I've used Canva to produce them all. And there's approximately 300 pages in each and 100,000 words. Doing this with Canva, I get to think of a story, write it in Word, say, spell check it in Word, spell check it with Grammarly. Somebody did ask me in a message just recently, a few days ago actually, when I'm doing part 2, can I mention what it would be like for doing with bleed, as I've set this up with no bleed. So basically it's pretty much the same. What we do is we go to trim sizes. You can just type KDP trim sizes, page bleed margins. You'll get this page. So they're the outside margins. Now, what's the inside gutter margin for 300 pages? What I'm doing, it's 0.5 inches, half an inch, or 12.7 millimeters rounded up to 13 millimeters, even 14 millimeters for the inside gutter margins. I create this box, any box, make it a square, any color you want, and then just drag it over to the edge, and then I'll move it in until it hits 0.5. There it is. Now that's the gutter margin sorted out. So I drag over the margin from the ruler guides here, move that over to the other side, let it click into place, drag another ruler guide over. So that's both sides done, that's left and right pages done. Now we want the outside margin. This is for bleed. We've already done no bleed in the previous video, like I say, and there's a link for that. It says here for the outside margins 0.375, I'm going to go for 0.4. And it says 9.6 millimeters. I'm going to round that up to 10 millimeters or a centimeter if you like. I'm just going to drag that in, and I've got it now at 0.4 because I'm working with inches there. Okay, I drag another line over, and I move it to the other side, and I drag another line over. Same for the top. I'll spin this round, because it's the same. The outside margins are all the same. And I'll drag a ruler guide down from the top. Move it to the bottom and drag a ruler guide down from the top. And that's that for that. And you can follow the rest of the video. And I'll go on to another page now. And that's basically it for the differences with bleed. Except for, copy this page here, this information on this page, and paste it in as though it's going to be my chapter page or book page. Now I'll just adjust this because I want it on the furthest to the right line here, and then I'll drag this to the furthest to the right line, and that's that set up. I'll bring the image to this line here, and again to the furthest to the right line there. If I just zoom out a minute, you can see what I'm talking about. So I've got that going up to the outside margin here, and it's going from the wide gutter margin here. But the difference with bleed, obviously, is I could just go like that with this image and have the whole thing. You can't do it with the text. The text still needs to remain in the borders, but the image can be bigger. I can stretch that from page to page, and it'll just get trimmed off wherever. So that's really the only difference there. And go back to our original work. And for this, I'm using no bleed. I'm going to set that image down onto that line here. That's going to be the page numbering. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to put some text in there. And the text in this top box will still reach the same lines, and I'll just adjust the text until it fits comfortably. And I'll give it an 8, that's fine. I'll type whispers in the void. Okay, now on a chapter page or a title page, you don't have this. You don't have a page heading. But if I copy that and paste it to the next one, the next right-hand side page, that is, it sits in there quite comfortably. I could move the text down a little bit, give it a bit more space, but for now, we'll leave it at that. I'll delete that one because, like I say, you don't have a heading on a chapter page or title page. But what I will do is I'll paste it here and I'll move it onto this bottom box here, and I'll put 1. Okay, this is the left-hand page. I'll paste it again, and because the left-hand page has the gutter margin on the right, I'll move that across until it reaches the outside margin here and the wide margin point here. And now I'll put the book title. So let's call it Horror Stories. It's not the title of this book, but let's call it Horror Stories. Now if I zoom out, we're really getting a look how this book is set out. If I copy this, take it to the next page and paste it, now you can see that the text is to the left, the gutter margin on the right. So I want this to the left and the gutter margin on the right. Now when it comes to this page here, the next page down with the gutter margin on the left, I'll go to a page with the gutter margin on the left. I'll copy that page number and I'll paste it in there, and it'll drop straight in without me having to adjust it. This is page 3. This is page 2. Okay, so we're really starting to get it coming together. I'll copy that for the horror stories and put it on the left-hand side of the page for the following page, and so on. When it comes to the text, I could copy that with the gutter margin on the right. There's the gutter margin on the left, and I'll paste that in there. I could just drag that up to the top, even make the text a little bit smaller on this, because I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this and paste. We've done the gutter margin on the right. We're alternating all the way through. We want it on the left-hand side. So I'll move that across so it reaches. I'm just giving you an idea to get familiar, so you can get familiar with left and right margins. Now we've got the outside margin on the right and the gutter margin on the left. Now if I take the page number for the one on the right and paste it there. I'm not going to put a number in there at the moment. And I go to the one with the right-hand gutter margin, copy, paste. Now they're set up, but I also want these here. I want these headings to go in. So if I go to the one with the gutter margin on the left, however you want to do it, copy. You can see what I'm doing. It's there, isn't it? And it drops in. Now I can change that at any point if it's on the wrong page, if it's fallen onto a chapter page or whatever. But I like the chapter page heading on the right and the book heading on the left. So I'll copy this one, which is the gutter margin on the right, and paste it in here. And it sits perfectly. We've got no page numbering there, so I'll go up to the one with the gutter on the right. It's sounding confusing, but just keep watching what I'm doing. That's it. We've set it all up now. So if I zoom out, you can see how things are looking. They're looking kind of strange, of course, but we've now got a template. Add lots of pages, however many pages it is that my book's going to be. And I go back up. I've also been asked, what if you don't want to justify left and right? You don't want your text to meet both sides. So you don't want it aligned to the left and right margins. You just want it sitting to the left margin. Well, you go up here and you can adjust all that there. For fiction, adjust it to the left. You don't need it adjusting left and right. If I go to this page here and align it to the left, everything's moved about. You can see that. It's all jagged on this edge, but that's fine for fiction. Now then, if I go down to these pages here, align them left, okay? That's it, just these text boxes, because we're going to use these in a minute. We're going to use these page setups. Now, because this is the kind of the blurb before it, I want it centered. That's just my taste. But for the text, now this is where you can work with your indents much easier. Now I'm setting my indents at 12 spaces. So if I hit the space bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll drag a ruler guide over to that indent. Now, as you can see, all these bits of text are all over the place, but because I'm using left align, it's much easier to adjust. I can just move the text with the space bar to the line. Once you've got the hang of it, you fly through this. It just takes a little bit of time. Once you've got through a few pages on your book, just adjust it. You'll be flying through. So now all of my indents, I've made that. And it's up to you when you're working with fiction. It's up to you how big your indents are, half an inch, 2 inches. It really just separates the paragraphs. It makes the paragraphs easier to locate and to read. You can even space these out a bit between the paragraphs if you want. I don't like. I just think the indentation's enough. If I just remove this from here, and I copy this whole section of text and put it into the next page, which should be with the gutter margin on the right. So if I drag it, click on it, drag it, the gutter margin is on the right, the gutter margin was on the left, and that's how things go all the way through. But as you can see, look, these are all out. Just to make sure, if I take that first word to the left and count 12 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, it's time to drag another ruler guide right up to that edge of that. And I'll do that. I'll just go through all of these to make sure they're all lined up. Right, okay, we're all set up. So what we've got is, you've got our left and we've got our right pages. And you can see how it looks all a little bit complicated, but it's not. Just follow that first one, follow this second one. And when it comes to things like this, when you've got a single word hanging down, you can have a look at my video, which I'll put a link to, and I'll put it at the back here, which is on widows and orphans. And it'll go through all these different things about having one-liners at the end or one word in a sentence. But for now, we're just going on the rulers. So we're all set up. We've had deep gutter margin on the right, deep gutter margin on the left, and you'll find that the gutter margin on page 1, which is obviously an odd number, or any page that you start, your title or your chapter, will be an odd number here in Canva. So if we go down, we've got an odd number 5. So we know the gutter margin, the deep gutter margin, should be on the left. So that's all set up. We've set that up before. So I can just put more text in there at any time I wish. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to copy this, the whole page. So I'm going to click my left mouse, drag it over, copy. Then I'll skip a page, go to an odd number, paste. When you copy it, make sure you're copying it over some text or something, otherwise it won't copy. Copy, paste, skip one, paste. Make sure I get all the odd numbers with the deep gutter margin on the left. And I can go through the whole thing like that. Then I go back to the top here, and now I want the even numbers. So if I copy that text there that I just put in, that I copied from the other, and I plonk it in here, and I remove most of it, this is just to set up our little template, and we can save this. Once we've done a template like this, we can save it, and we can do multiple books. Like I've done these 3 books, and it really is easy. So I'm going to highlight all that. As you can see, the gutter margin now is on the right, and it's an even number. So I'll go through all the even numbers, paste, 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 paste. Yeah, a bit laborious. Once you've set up a template like this, you can call it a template and then just leave it to one side, and all your future books, you can just go to it. Okay, when it comes to, that's fiction. So you indent on fiction. It's just the way it is. It helps you separate the paragraphs, like I say. It lets somebody read more fluid. When it comes to non-fiction, you don't need to indent. You can if it's an autobiography or a biography or something like that. You can indent it. It's more like a story, a personal or true life story. You could indent and pretty much set it up like a fiction book. But you don't need to, and you would normally justify. So you've got left and right margins. You want the text to touch both. If I come down here and I click justify left and right, you can see how the text touches the right-hand side and the left-hand side. The margins. I'll do it again with this one. Okay. Now what you find here is you've got all kinds of issues. And it's always the same when you're working with justifying to the left and right margins. Everything's gone out, obviously. Everything's just vanished from here. But it doesn't matter because you're working with non-fiction. So you don't need to have indentation. What you do need is a space. So that'll do. That's all you need. And your paragraphs can be bigger if you wish. So go to the next one. Make a space. And that's how you would do non-fiction. It's really that easy. It's much easier than messing about with indentations. You could close these gaps up here. They are a bit big. Now to do that though, you would have to separate the text. That can be a bit of a nuisance. So if I go to a new page, I'm going to call this one paragraph, and I'm copying a paragraph at a time. So now I want a new box. Go to elements, I'll get a box, and I'll put it right across the page, and I'll shrink it right down to how big I want the gap. for the spacing between the two paragraphs. So now when I pick up that line and I just click it to the grid, so it touches that next paragraph. So let's just say, for instance, I copy that and paste it and bring it into position. Now I'll copy the contents of another paragraph, so it could be from a Word document. So let's just say I'm copying this one. Copy. I double clicked on that, but you can just highlight that however you wish. Paste. And then I can move that down. Left mouse, hold it down, move it down. Copy that top one again, paste. It can be a bit of a process. So I'll copy the contents of the next one or another one. I could be doing this from a Word document or another kind of document, like I say. Double click that or highlight it how you do, paste, and get hold of that and move it to the until it clicks up to the text, and get that first one again. But like I say, it can take a while, but if I remove all of these margins just to show you, and because it's non-fiction, justify it to the left and right margins. You can see there's gaps. They're too big. They're far too big on here. So how can I get rid of these gaps? Well, what I can do is I can look at moving some of this text. So if I highlight this top one here, above it, go to spacing, where it says letter spacing, it says 0, I could put -4, for instance. I'd never go more than 6 if I can help it. And what it's done is absolutely nothing. So if I highlight this top one again, but this time, if I go to spacing, I'm not going to put a minus. I'm just going to put a number in. So I'm going to go with 4. Okay, so what's happened is, if you remember, that of was on this line. So I've made these spacings a little bit bigger by 4, as you can see there, and it's pushed the of onto the next line and squashed that gap up. So there's no more unsightly gap. And if I just use the back, you can see how all that's too wide, and I've just moved that off onto the next line. You can reduce the spacing or you can make the spacing bigger, but sometimes it's better to make the spacing bigger, because sometimes if you squash it all up, it can look squashed up, whereas you expect the pages to be sometimes the words to be a little bit more spaced out. Don't know what I was looking at my tortoise over there for when I was talking to you, but it's getting bigger. It's put on an ounce since in about a month, so it's doing all right. So okay, yeah, it probably looked complicated there, because it's one thing doing it, and it's another thing explaining how to do it. And I can put a book together. Once I've got the manuscript, I could make a book like this of 300 pages, and I'd probably do it in a day, moving it over to Canva. But once it's done, isn't it? And I'll have made sure everything's right when I've done it, and it'll be up and published. And yeah, there's nothing quite like publishing your own books. I've actually got another one of these. It's a trilogy at the moment. It's going to be a quadrilogy by next week. And I'm just loving doing short stories at the moment. To be honest with you, I haven't sold many of these yet, but I only released them at the beginning of this month. And there's plenty of time yet. I'll start promoting them in different ways on social media and all kinds of things, and in groups and different things like that. But I'm just enjoying doing them. I really am. I'm actually enjoying reading them, even though I wrote them. That's it.